Hi and welcome to the fourth video in this section. So in this section, we are going to look at the AWS CodePipeline service. So this is a continuous delivery service that's provided by AWS. Now here you can actually create the various steps that are required for the release of your software. And it gives you a visual representation of these steps. This is kind of similar to the CodePipeline plugin which is available in Jenkins. So if you've been using Jenkins as a continuous integration tool, that also has a continuous pipeline plugin. So the same thing is available in AWS. But I said the best thing about AWS is this is a completely managed service. You don't need to manage the underlying servers. So what happens in the CodePipeline, you can define different steps. So first step is that you could provide where is the location of your source code. It will then pick up the source code. You then specify a step to do the build. You can then specify another step to do the testing of the underlying software after the build. And then you can create another step which will be for the release of the software. Now in each of these steps, right, so in the source step, you want to specify what is the source location. So here you can specify to pick it up from either simple storage service, code commit, or even GitHub. When you're looking at the build process, you can use either AWS code build, so the software available by AWS, or you could use a custom CI tool such as Jenkins or even TeamCity. When it comes to the test process, you can use tools such as the one from HP, which is Storm Runner, or even another tool known as Ghost Inspector. And finally, if you want to specify deploy action, so if you want to deploy your code, you could use CloudFormation or Elastic Beanstalk. Now let's go on to the AWS console. Let's see how we can work with AWS CodePipeline service. So here we are in the AWS console. Now what we're going to do is that we're going to go ahead and use the CodePipeline service. Now in the CodePipeline service, I already have one pipeline that's already available. Let's go ahead and create a new pipeline. Let's give a name for the pipeline. Let's go on to next step. Now this time we're going to mention our source as the S3 bucket itself. So again, you have the options for Amazon S3, for Amazon Code Commit, and GitHub. So let's choose Amazon S3. Now we need to give the entire Amazon S3 location, and we're going to be using the same example we used in our earlier video, which was our hello world zip file. So we need to go on to the zip file, take the entire link, and then paste it over here in the Amazon S3 location. Go on to next step. For the build provider, since we already have a code build done for the zip file, we can use the code build. We can select an existing build project, which is the hello world build, which we did in our earlier example. We can go on to next step. We're not going to do any deployment for the moment. We just want to do a simple build. Let's go on to next step. Now we need to here create a role. So here you automatically have the provision of creating a role. This allows the CodePipeline service to call other AWS services if required. We can accept the defaults and click on allow. We can go on to the next step. We can go on to our review and we can create a pipeline. Before we actually go ahead and run our pipeline, I just want to make one comment. If you're using S3 as the source, make sure that you go on to the bucket, go on to properties, and ensure that versioning is enabled. This is a prerequisite for the CodePipeline service to work if you're using S3 as a source location. Now go ahead to the pipeline, and now you can see it's already done a release change. So the source is in progress, and even the build is going to go in progress as the next step. So here we can see first of all a visual representation of the entire build process in a series of steps. This makes it easy for you to see visually what's happening in your entire build pipeline. So you can have multiple build pipelines. You can have a source, build, test, and deploy. You can see currently that the source has succeeded. So it's successfully built up. So it has successfully pulled up the zip file. Now the build is going to take time because this is going on to the AWS code build. It's going to build the environment, build our file. So let's come back once the build is complete. Now once the build is done, you can see your entire pipeline is a success. So in such a case, you can actually now complete or create your entire pipeline. It can contain your source, your build, your test, and your deployment. So this is how the CodePipeline service works. So now let's move on to the next video in our course, which is the complete continuous integration pipeline.